Hello, and welcome to another episode of Just Jesus. You may remember that last week we looked at the passage in Luke chapter 4 where Jesus walks into the synagogue and is handed the scroll of Isaiah. And he turns to a passage in Isaiah where he says, "Now the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has been anointed to preach the gospel to the poor," and so forth. And we noted just the single-minded focus that Jesus had on doing the will of his Father. He did not allow the distractions of daily life to keep him from doing what he knew his Father wanted him to do. And I am just amazed by that, and I admire that because I am constantly allowing distractions to keep me from doing those things that I know I need to do. And another example of that is found, first of all, in John, the Gospel of John. Jesus has come to Jerusalem to observe the Passover. But before he observes the Passover, there's a crowd that gathers, and he says, "Now is my soul troubled. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? But for this purpose I have come to this hour." He knows that his death is imminent, and it's not that far away. And he begins to be troubled because let's face it, he is not going to enjoy it. It is going to be painful. And it bothers him, and his soul is troubled. And he knows that he could ask his Father to save him from this hour. But he doesn't want to do that because that's why he came to give his life. And so he observes the Passover with his apostles, and then they go out into the Mount of Olives, and he goes off and he prays by himself, and he prays, "Father, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. If there's some other way for you to save mankind from their sins, please, please do that. But if you can't, then not my will, but yours be done." And again, just that single-minded focus on doing what his Father wanted him to do. And that's something that all of us should strive and should try to emulate. I don't know who said it. I don't know where I read it. But I've read it a couple of different places, and that the idea that Satan doesn't want all of us. He just wants a piece of us because he knows that God wants all of us. And if Satan can get just a little piece of us, he knows that he's got us. And Satan will put things in front of us and distract us, and he will tell us that these things are good, that they may be important, but they distract us from doing what God wants us to do and from becoming what God wants us to be. And he couldn't do that with Jesus. He couldn't distract Jesus from doing what he knew his Father wanted him to do, even though he knew it wasn't going to be pleasant, even though he knew it was going to be painful, excruciatingly painful. And even though he knew that at some point in this process, his Father was going to have to turn away and leave him hanging there on that cross all by himself. And that his Father just could not and would not come to his rescue. And that was going to be painful for Jesus. And so that's why he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" The things that you and I have to go through in life pale in comparison to what Jesus went through. And yet, so often we allow ourselves to be distracted by things that are simply not important. And they keep us from doing the things that God has called us to do. I so admire and appreciate the focus that Jesus had on not letting things bother him, and the focus that he had on doing what his Father wanted him to do. Well, I pray that you'll think about these things, and I pray that you'll have a great day.